If you could go back and ask an elementary school you what they wanted to be when they grew up, what would they say? Perhaps some of you wanted to be firefighters, doctors, or even movie stars. I'm sure there are some of you that would have had their answer change week to week, sometimes day to day. That's the thing about those statements when you were kids. They're more of an indication of the kind of stuff you were interested in and the heroes you look up to, rather than concrete career plans. When I was young, there was really only one thing I was very interested in. As for the earlier question, a younger me would have consistently told you one of two things. Either A, a hotshot fighter pilot flying the F-35, or B, an engineer at the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works designing fighter jets. In a book that was made as a Mother's Day present, I wrote that I thought that I'd achieve one of those things by my mid to late 20s, along with having a wife and kids. I hate to break it to my elementary school version of myself, but he was way off on that. I'm 30, and I haven't even graduated college yet, let alone had any sort of romantic relationship. As far as the vision of myself as some dashing maverick or successful engineer helping to build the next generation of fighter aircraft goes, the absolutely terminal Asperger's diagnosis in 5th grade took care of the first, and the fact that I got the expensive hobbies and social anxiety kind of autism and not the super good at math kind took care of the latter. Even my quest to become a civil pilot has been facing insurmountable odds before I can even set foot in a cockpit just to learn, and all because I was having a tough time right after graduating high school. I mean, who doesn't? And sought proper help years before I thought being a pilot was even possible. I'm not trying to make it sound like my life has been some sort of train wreck. Chasing my film degree all of those years taught me a lot of valuable skills. It was because of that I learned how to build and maintain my own computer. That very same computer would be beefy enough to play Digital Combat Simulator flawlessly and, in some small way, let me live out my dream of being a fighter pilot. To be honest, even that prediction of working for Lockheed Martin might not be terribly far off when I finish up college. Sure, managing airports or working dispatch at a major airline isn't the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, but it would be in the aviation industry. And I'd be fighting to get into that pilot seat some way. Somehow. If only the FAA would let me, that is. As I was developing ideas for my next video, I knew that I needed to do something different. Sure, I love playing SBT, but I don't want to start my channel playing nothing but that and then have people get the idea that I'm going to be a Tarkov channel. If anything, I really want to do variety content with a few tentpoles, with DCS being one of them. And don't worry, the SBT Zero to Hero video is still in the works. It's just, there's a lot to record, and it's gonna take a while. Oh, that was Sherman! So I guess that part is settled. I need to make a DCS video, but on what? A video on dynamic campaign generators alone wouldn't have enough meat for a video that isn't watching paint dry, and I lack any kind of twist that would make things incredibly interesting for them yet. A deep dive on a single aircraft? Well, maybe, but that idea really isn't scratching the content-making itch, if I'm completely honest. So what will it be? I kept coming back to the idea of doing a campaign playthrough. But which one, though? Most of the campaigns built in are broken. And I'm not sure I want to do something like The Enemy Within or Raven 1 while I'm still figuring out my pipeline for DCS videos. That's when I remembered a campaign that's been sitting in my backlog for years. This would be the perfect excuse to take a look at a campaign that, from everything I've seen and read, has flown under the radar for most people who play DCS, but a few do sing its praises. One that aimed to blur the line between Ace Combat and Digital Combat Simulator. One that wanted to provide a fun and accessible story-driven campaign for those who didn't have the time or patience for ultimate realism. Hell, they even got Keiki Kobayashi to do the music for it. Most campaigns don't even have music. The only soundtrack you need is the occasional radio chatter and the sound of your engines. Being someone who absolutely played Ace Combat 6 to death on the 360, has S-ranked every mission on Ace difficulty in Ace Combat 7, and grew up playing Air Combat, the US release of Ace Combat on the PlayStation, this was going to be right up my alley.
Mission accomplished.
I really don't know where to begin with the Rising Squall. I'm going to try and be as spoiler-free as possible, so we aren't going to go super deep into the lore, of which there is an entire website dedicated to just that, or any of the major plot points. You really should go experience this for yourself. So, I guess the first question you're probably asking is, did I like it? You're damn right I liked it! Is it the most technically complex or intellectually stimulating campaign? No, of course not. It was never sold as such. Most of the missions are only around 13 to 20 minutes long, so if you nail every single mission, you could easily blow through the entirety of the campaign in a couple evenings at most. So as far as content density goes, it's pretty light. Okay, so what about the story? Is it any good? I wouldn't go into this expecting flawless writing or for everything to make sense. The voice acting is... well...
Good boy. You may need a beating again. I'll deal with you in the RTV.
Hold up, what? Let's just say it has its charms. It's over the top, and it's pretty obvious that these are either a lot of community members or voice actors on their first couple of gigs, or a mix of both. Do you think some indie DCS dev is going to be able to hire a grade A professional voice actor? No, of course not. As far as the music goes, most of the tracks and missions do a pretty good job of adding background flavor, but aren't memorable like some of Keiki Kobayashi's other works. Although I do have to give Eye for an Eye credit here, which I am using as background music. That song is fire. Truthfully though, all of these critiques amount to nothing more than nitpicks though. Why? Because I had fun. Have we forgotten that we can have fun? Does everything have to be some in-depth review or defense of a stated opinion? That's not to say that everyone is going to like this. There are undoubtedly going to be people who will disagree with anything I have to say in the comments. Does that change how I feel about this campaign, though? No, it doesn't. That younger me, you know, the one who wanted to fly fighter jets and wanted to be a hotshot, he was having the time of his life. That is the biggest thing this campaign does well. It captures that idea of being a fighter pilot. The daring missions with the odds stacked against you, the intrigue going on behind the scenes, being a part of a simmering conflict that is threatening to boil over. Even things like sitting alert and getting scrambled to take a look at unidentified aircraft or getting jumped by enemy fighters. Every beat in a mission feels less like, is this realistic? And more like, is this cool or is this fun? The visual novels that are included help you get to know your comrades in arms. Some you get closer to, Diana Lovecraft is best girl, and I will die on this hill! Some, you realize, might not have the best of intentions. This campaign tries to capture that coolness factor of fighter jets. It keeps things simple so you don't have to remember how to do a proper BVR timeline or do a proper 9-line for some close air support, but it gives you just enough control over things, like flipping switches, dials, or targeting weapons properly to give you the feeling of being a fighter pilot. Those, combined with the mission design, successfully captures the feelings I felt when I first played Ace Combat 6 on the 360 in junior high. Heck, it captures the feelings I first felt playing Air Combat on the PlayStation in elementary school. It shirks realism for the rule of cool, and while it is incredibly cheesy and over the top at times, if you go into it with the right mindset, it is a lot of fun. It's also a stepping stone to bigger and more complex things. It gives those newer players who have just picked up the FA-18C and have only created simple missions or have been referencing YouTube tutorials a chance to put what they've learned into practice, but in a way that isn't punishing if you don't do things strictly by the book. You get to hop into a cockpit and within 5 or so minutes, sometimes sooner, you are blowing stuff up. That's fun. If you die, it resets to the nearest checkpoint. You aren't set back multiple hours, starting from square one, cold and dark in a hangar. For newer players or more casual players, that is perfect. Is this campaign for everyone? No. There are some people who really do want that realistic experience. They've pored over every manual, both for the game itself and whatever ITAR-restricted, unclassified documents they could find. They paid for the whole fighter jet, and damn it, they're going to use it. And that's great. For others, this might be a bit on the weeby side for them. And that's okay too. We all have different tastes. For me and my inner child, we're probably going to replay this multiple times. Inverted simulations? I know you've mostly been radio silent in the 4-ish years since you released this, only really providing maintenance, which is greatly appreciated. I just want to let you know that I think that you created something amazing here. Is it perfect? No. Creative endeavors never are, but I can see the amount of love you sunk into this project and can feel the excitement you had at turning this dream of yours into a reality all throughout the campaign. I really hope you haven't given up on a sequel. These types of campaigns are desperately needed in DCS. We need more accessible, fun, and relaxed campaigns that serve as a stepping stone to bring new blood into the hobby, and you hit the nail on the head here. Without campaigns like the Rising Squall, there is a good chance that the simming hobby is going to die out one day. And I'll bet money on that. Well, that's my initial thoughts and impressions of the Rising Squall. If you guys really want an in-depth overview of what the campaign has to offer, maybe I can throw together a video or a stream in the future where we do just that. But I feel like I need to change gears here and talk shop for a second. This was a hard video for me to make. There was this pressure I felt to make sure that this video was 100% perfect. Especially since a part of me wanted to make damn sure we built on the momentum I started to gain with the last video. It also brings up a lot of complicated feelings I have currently. I'm getting ready to try for the last time to get a first-class medical, which, if I get denied for again, means that it'll be unlikely that I'll get to fly as a career, potentially ever. There were multiple times where making this video was a slog. Hell, there was a night or two where I was playing the Rising Squall and not on my A game. I was tired, frustrated about multiple things in my life, and not in the proper headspace to record. Yet I forced myself to in order to hit some self-imposed deadline that really wasn't all that important. I had a plan for this video that was huge. I was going to make an entertaining overview of the whole campaign, but when things didn't come together as I had envisioned, I was left incredibly discouraged, and the perfectionist side of myself had a field day. So I had to step away from it for a bit, which is why it took so long to make. I talked in the last video, and earlier in this one, about how I used to be a film major. Truth is, I burnt myself out. Hard. That perfectionism, that voice in my head that sounds oddly like J.K. Simmons from Whiplash is precisely why. I was paralyzed by anxiety, afraid to make mistakes, because I felt that mistakes would cost me everything. It would make me nothing more than a failure. And I would have failed a younger me. Sure, the youngest of young me's wanted to be a fighter pilot, but there is another young me. It's the young me that found himself in a theater one autumn afternoon and had his brain chemistry fundamentally changed by Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away, who, from that day forward, wanted to be a storyteller, who started out writing books, then figuring out he really wanted to be a filmmaker. I want to be able to tell those younger versions of myself that I made their dreams come true. Some way, somehow. And perhaps if I can't physically get into a cockpit after all, if I get denied one last time, and perhaps through DCS and content creation I can somehow do enough to make those inner children content. If you manage to stick around through what I feel is a mediocre video with enough sap to supply Canada's maple syrup production for decades to come, I want to honestly thank you. Hopefully most of these videos won't be as emotionally charged as this one was for me to make, and probably about 100 times more coherent. Anyway, thanks for watching, drink some water, go touch some grass and some really good green lush grass. Maybe some moss while you're at it. And I'll see you next time. Hopefully soon.
Sky to all stations. Attention, Babel Tower is hit. Babel Tower is hit. Repeat, Babel
Jeez.
Tower is hit.
It's gone.
All stations, Babel Tower is on fire. Send rescue. Oh shit.
Lyle, turn on the TV, they hit the